It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric is out this morning. He has COVID again. Yeah, it's interesting because I was working out yesterday and got back from my workout, and I saw his text, and he's got the the COVID test there is showing me his temperature that's just out of control. And so hopefully he is okay, and we'll be back here in the next couple of days. Yes, so it meant I had to check myself. And I've never tested positive. So it's interesting because everybody who works here has at least once, I believe, tested positive at one time. And I don't know. I remember the one time, this goes way, way back, they said that if you have O blood, you have, less symptoms. Look, I've had COVID. Everybody has had it. I mean, everybody, I'll put it this way. Everybody has been exposed to the virus. And that was years ago. Everybody was exposed to the virus. So, so he's out. Hopefully he feels better. I mean, he doesn't want to come in. He's got the fever. He's got the fever. But other than that, he was communicating with me, and you could tell he was not happy at all. He was not happy at all. It's a Super Bowl every day here, folks. That's what it is. It's a Super Bowl every day. And when we had our vacation in the beginning of this month, Eric and I were here on that Friday going, I really don't want to go. And he goes, neither do I. It's just too much stuff. Now, that's the one great thing. I mean, nothing is better than that in life. When you're supposed to go on vacation and you're like, I don't want to go. I don't know what the stutter is about there, but I don't want to go. Oh, yeah. That's the one great thing. And I tell this to people. They go, do you like your job? And I said, let me put this into perspective. You know that if you're working your job, when vacation is coming, you're like, oh, wow, I can't wait to go on vacation. And then when vacation is almost over, you're like, oh, man, I got to be back to work on Monday. I used to have that. I had that even at times when I was in radio. But on Red Eye, there is no emotional difference, I know, for me. And I think it's the same for Eric, too. From being on vacation and having to go back to work, or being at work and going on vacation. Or if you're at work going on vacation, or vacation going at work, it's the same emotionally. And that's the best thing about this job. That's the best thing about coming in here every day, because every day it's just like, oh, okay, what's up next? And when it's vacation time, it's like, oh, okay, vacation time, that's cool. But there is no dread when vacation time is ending that, oh, no, I have to go back to work. For Eric and I, it's probably Tuesday, maybe at the latest Wednesday of a vacation, where we're like, we got to go back. Just too much going on. And that's the way it is today. What a day it was yesterday. I have to start with this audio cut. There's so much going on. I mean, we're going to, Kimberly Cheatle from the Secret Service and the testimony yesterday. If you wonder why we say we're doomed, she is a perfect example. And I thought really it was the imagery of Biden, everything that's wrong with the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, you could see with Kimberly Cheatle from the Secret Service right there. When you have both sides, when you have Jamie Raskin agreeing with James Comer that she should resign, when you cannot tell the difference between Democrats and Republicans in Congress, questioning a Democrat. Wow. I mean, we've got tons of audio on that today, but it looks like Kamala Harris has the number of delegates that she needs, and she's gotten to that point of delegates saying that they have, committed to her. But I thought this audio cut was interesting from Pete Buttigieg, because I'm looking, I go, is this from years ago when he was running for president? Well, what's going on here? I don't understand this. But this is like the worst. They don't know where to go with Kamala Harris. This is Pete Buttigieg. You would think that he would be better prepared. Here we go.
Well, I think we're certainly going to see consistency in terms of the values and the direction. Obviously, she has been a part of this historically effective administration.
I mean, that's Buttigieg. You're going to get Biden with Kamala Harris. I mean, that's the message. It's like no pivot. And I will say that after a day for everybody to settle in on everything that had happened, when you looked at yesterday, it seems like the Republicans are extremely optimistic. We have some new polling that is in that includes a full day of knowing that Biden is out. And it's not good for the Democrats at all. Number of stories written yesterday going, why Kamala Harris? She's the worst possible Democrat you could pick. Why? Easy. Identity politics. That's it. It's identity politics. It's not the most qualified. It's identity politics. And everybody knows it. So we'll get to that. Meanwhile, you have, when you look at, what's being, what is effective, Kamala Harris and Biden yesterday, we'll play some of the cuts of that, just was sort of bizarre with Biden on the phone. I mean, everything is just completely and totally bizarre. The 25th Amendment has come up again. In fact, according to the New York Post story that we'll get to here first in just a couple of seconds, the top Democrats threatened Biden with the 25th. Is what the New York Post story says. So we'll get to that. Meanwhile, the campaign continues for the Trump ticket. And what I'm always searching for is, okay, where are they going on that? What do they say that really grabs you and says, okay, I like that? When you look at somebody who is in the middle class, or really anybody out there who's any type of critical thinker, what is the narrative? What are the things that are said from a campaign that you go, oh, okay, yeah, I completely agree with that? And this is J.D. Vance yesterday and what he had to say.
We're going to fight for the energy worker in this country who doesn't understand why Kamala Harris and Joe Biden want to buy energy from tin pot dictators all over the world, but won't buy it with our own citizens, from our own citizens, and from the hands and from our own land.
Very effective. Very effective. And I still can't. They can't promote. That's the bizarro thing is, Buttigieg. He can't promote what she's about. She's as far left as you can get. She owns everything from the Biden administration. She's probably the worst candidate that the Democrats could pick. But they had to. They had no choice. It was either her or an open convention. I think the interesting thing is that all my Democrat acquaintances, now in my extended family, and with not most of my friends are more conservative, but with my acquaintances that are Democrats, extended family members that are Democrats, people just that I know that are very vocal Democrats, but not involved, have been vocal Democrats in the past, but not involved in the actual party, complete silence. Nothing. That's, to me, one of the most amazing things, and it always sits in the back of my mind. I remember You know, in the 70s, there was the silent majority, the silent majority, the silent majority. They're the ones that affect an election, the silent majority. Is there a silent majority of Democrats that reject what's going on? Because I find it interesting. I just realized it just passed here. I don't know the exact date, but I'm now into my 43rd year in radio. It's sometime between the end of June and the middle of July. That is my anniversary. I had to figure it out by, how many months I was in radio at every single job. And it's like, okay, it's somewhere end of June, middle of July. That's my anniversary actually in radio. 35 years, it'll be a full 35 years in talk radio, first week of October. With Eric, as we said last week, 19 years, but in radio now, a full 42 years going on 43 years. And I have never seen a campaign where the one side doesn't have an issue. There's not an issue. You look at it, you go, where do they go? Kamala Harris isn't, well, it's funny because it was Joe Biden isn't Trump. Well, that didn't work. And now it's Kamala Harris isn't Trump and isn't Joe Biden. But she really can't tell you where she stands on any of the issues. They can't tell you where they stand. They cannot be honest with it, and that's going to be a problem. It's easy for the Republicans right now. Hey, we care about Americans. We want to put Americans to work. That's nationalism. Call it whatever you want. Who the hell cares? It's like it's not nationalism, and that's bad. Caring about your own citizens is a bad thing. You're going to sell that now. Well, good luck with that. And that's where they are. And Kamala Harris, when you look at how she flamed out big time back in 2019, and you actually go through it, she's not a good candidate. But, I mean, you're going to have, they haven't even started saying, look, she's from California. She represents California. Senator from California. Do you wish to be California? I would use that if I were the Republicans. Do you wish to be California? Does the United States wish to, if you wish to be California, then vote for her. If you don't wish to be California, vote for us. That's extremely effective. But when you think of it, they had to, because identity politics is still where they are. They judge people by groups and not individuals. And you know what that's called? Racism. And we had said this back in 2020 when you had Democrats coming out and saying, racism, it's institutionalized throughout America. It's institutionalized in police departments. It's institutionalized. It's systemic racism. And they're absolutely right. But they were pointing at the wrong people. Where racism is institutionalized as a Democratic Party, and every Democrat listening right now knows it, because you know what identity politics is. And you know identity politics is practiced by the Democratic Party and has been for the longest time. You've had James Carville screaming about identity politics, that they've got to move away from it. Democrats don't care. They judge people by groups and not individuals. How immoral is that? You would think that in 2024 we'd be past that, but that's exactly what's going on in the Democratic Party today. That's why Kamala Harris is there. You can't challenge identity. Talent, integrity, critical thinking skills, none of that matters. The only thing that matters for Democrats is identity. What group are you in? How Neanderthal is that in 2024? Democrats, I'm speaking to you. It's institutionalized in your party. When are you going to reject it? Why are you afraid to reject bigotry and racism? And it's absolutely as blunt as it could be. And by the way, if there's ever a time for Republicans to pound on it, it is now. To be on the attack mode. There has never been a time, and I've been saying this, for the last 10, 15 years? There has never been a time when it's easier to defend conservative principles and to attack liberal ideas because they fail miserably. And as we know, the identity politics is racism, judging people by groups and not individuals. And everyone listening right now, including every Democrat, knows that. Why does your party stick with that? Do Democrats ever question that? And like I said, I've never seen in all my years in radio and in talk radio, the Democrats, not the politicians. That BS still continues. The rhetoric still continues. But the average voter, you don't hear anything from them. They're completely quiet. What are they thinking? Got a great show ahead. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has a morning off. He's sick. He's got COVID again, so hopefully he's okay and returns ASAP. Yeah, I'm fine. I tested. I tested negative. I still had tests. I didn't even know when I did a workout yesterday, a huge long bicycle workout, 15 miles, and came back and saw that I had a message, and I'm like, what's this? What? And I see a temperature gauge and the old COVID test, and it seems so long ago, the whole COVID thing, that when he said, I got COVID, fever and everything else, I went, well, I don't even know. I don't even know what the rules are anymore. But Eric said, I felt like I really had bad allergies, and I thought the same thing, but I have allergies during the summer here. I've always had allergies, but I said I better check myself, and I ended up being okay. So I still have never tested positive in all this day and age. I've never tested positive. All right, coming up, we'll take a look at some of the polls out there, some one-day polls, some polls that did extend past when Biden announced, that actually included all day Sunday, and some interesting numbers there. And the interesting numbers are, it looks like Trump got a nice bump out of the convention. But what's next now? What's the Democrats' plan, and what are the Republicans' plans? Plus, we'll hear from Kamala, her first day out, I guess, pseudo-campaigning, and we will hear the testimony of the head of the Secret Service today. Man, what a cluster that was.
observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara, nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's out. He has COVID, and, he's got a fever and everything else. I don't even know what the rules and regulations are these days for COVID, but hopefully he's back very, very soon, because I know he wants to be here because things are crazy right now. Kamala Harris out really for the first time after Joe Biden gave it up and, or was forced out. Forced out, as I think everybody across the board is reporting. And some of this just got really, really bizarre. I mean, it just really got bizarre. Here's part of it. Here we go.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day. You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do. Everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe.
And then let me find the part where she puts him on hold. Not kidding. When you do these things, she should bring the president on, have him say his piece, and then go. She puts him on, tells him to hold on because she has to introduce other people.
So, Joe, I'm going to recognize some of the electeds who are here, and then I'm going to get back to you. Hold on a second. There
you go. Just bizarre. Just. This was. This is Brett Baer with Chris Coons, the Biden-Harris campaign co-chair. I don't think it's Biden anymore. They listed as Biden-Harris, but it's not. But he asked the question, what was her biggest accomplishment as vice president?
What do you think has been Vice President Harris's biggest accomplishment as vice president?
Well, look, I think she's done remarkable work across several important areas. Something that I think hasn't gotten much coverage is her passion for entrepreneurship, for wealth creation, for securing and stabilizing the middle class. She's traveled around the country to meet with small businesses and to talk with them about what it takes to get back to work, to grow a small business, to sustain the wealth and opportunity for.
Wow. Even Brett Baer, who never interrupts. And her passion for wealth creation, she did that? Oh, my gosh. It's going to be fascinating to see what goes on. All right, the New York Post story that came out late yesterday afternoon. Top Democrats threatened to forcibly remove Biden from office unless he dropped out. And this is a source story now, the New York Post, set him up to fail at the Trump debate. Operatives at the very highest levels of the Democratic Party threatened Joe Biden with forcibly removing him from office unless he stepped down, sources have told the New York Post. The well-orchestrated palace coup to stop the faltering president seeking re-election has been in place for weeks, but stubborn Biden fought against it at every step of the way, a source close to the Biden family told the New York Post on Monday. The insider also made clear the anger, paranoia, and frustration that Biden displayed as the party elite circled around him and piled on the pressure. Part of the elaborate strategy to remove Biden from the race, as he announced in a shock letter posted on X on Sunday, was allowing him to debate Republican candidate Donald Trump last month on live TV. During the car crash 90-minute debate, Biden appeared confused, slack-jawed, and at one point he froze up with his shocking performance, turning the tide against him. Whoa. That debate was a setup to convince Democrats that he couldn't run for president, the source told the New York Post on Monday. As calls for him to bow out mounted, Biden insisted he would continue, but the party bigwigs threatened to invoke the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The amendment allows for the vice president and members of the cabinet to declare that he is unfit to serve and force him to step down, the source said. The White House and representatives from the Democratic National Committee did not immediately respond to the Post's request for comments. Although Biden immediately endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as a Democratic candidate for president, the source said Democratic delegates will be strongly encouraged. This is interesting now. As, you know, all the stories are going in one direction. It'll be interesting to see. We'll be able to know whether this source story has any credibility to it or not. Although Biden immediately endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, the source said Democratic delegates will be strongly encouraged instead to back Arizona Senator and former astronaut Mark Kelly for president at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August. Some holdouts have still yet to endorse Harris as Biden's successor, despite less than a month until the convention and only 4 months until Election Day. Most notable among them is former President Barack Obama. Obama said we will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead. Following the debate, first son Hunter Biden suddenly became more involved in his father's day-to-day business and insisted upon attending every official and unofficial meeting, the source said. Hunter felt Joe Biden was being set up, and he was very concerned about his father, the source said. These people, these officials, were not on Joe's side. Biden's own staff did not have any forewarning about the bombshell decision to pull out of the race, which was known since at least Tuesday, the source said. Many also were also shocked by the letter posted to Biden's X account itself, as it was typical on his, as it was typed on his private letterhead rather than White House notepaper and signed electronically, the source said. Everyone was totally shocked, the source said. It was pretty telling that Jill Biden tweeted a heart emoji and nothing else. Democratic Party insiders have also known for at least 2 years that Biden was in decline, the source said. Well, we had said it yesterday. What happened here, as we all know, is that they all got caught in a lie. The mainstream media got caught in the lie. Democrats got caught in the lie. Karine Jean-Pierre got caught in the lie. John Kirby got caught in the lie. Any of the supporters of Biden who were until the last minute stating that he was fine and dandy, and the members of his cabinet, you know, that were saying that he was doing backflips. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I mean. He was doing backflips, analyzing the latest calculus algorithm. And the problem was when young people would go in and they just couldn't keep up with him. All a lie. Everything a lie from the Democratic Party. You know, the only thing that really comes close to this would be the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, where they all lied for 3 years. And they all lied about it. It wasn't true. And they all lied. This is all that happened. That debate, they got caught in their lie. The lie was so crystal clear. Now, the American public already knew it. But they got caught in the lie that day. All of them. All of them lied. Everybody in the media, in the mainstream media, lied. And the public knew it. And this is where it came to the whole, the gaslighting. What are you talking about? Making you feel like what you see and what you hear doesn't exist. To embarrass you. To attempt to run over you. What are you talking about? Oh, I don't know what president you're seeing. This guy is just absolutely on top of his game. And the ultimate would be Joe Scarborough on MSNBC when he talked probably a month ago about that Biden was cognitively better than any of the Republican speakers, and then that he's ever dealt with, and then the entire thing that, you can't handle the truth, and F you if you can't handle the truth. but this was the best Biden ever, as he said in March. All lies. Gaslighting. I mean, the ultimate lies. And that's what you're dealing with right now. And Vice President Harris, as we all know, was a part of that lie. Now, Republicans are going to use that against her. You've got one senator already, we'll get to this story later on, saying that they should bring up the 25th Amendment. If this story has legs and you have other media reporting that, yep, that the top members of the Democratic Party threatened to use the 25th Amendment, if he didn't leave office, they were going to force him out with the 25th Amendment, expect that to grow. Now, there's two trains of thought. Politically, Republicans aren't sure they wish to go that way and kick him out of office, but realistically, in the real world, he's not capable of being president of the United States. And I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans start moving in that direction, especially if more stories come out here about the fact that they wanted him out via the 25th Amendment. And if you don't feel that the person is qualified to run for office, what you're saying is they're not qualified to be in office. And Democrats may go along with it. They may end up using the 25th Amendment anyway because they wouldn't mind Kamala Harris being the incumbent president. And so we're in for, I mean, it's going to be a zoo coming up. And if they decide, if they're telling the delegates, that story's going to come out. The New York Post had that story. That story will come out. If that source is true, and they say source, not sources, which I'm always a little bit wary of when you say source. I always had when I ran news departments, I always had the rule that had to be two sources. You always use sources, not just source. You had to have one independently verify the other one. I don't think that's the case anymore. But when we were trying to be journalists back then. But yeah, it's the fireworks are not over yet. But if they attempt to have some type of open convention, whoa, wow, and they attempt to kick Kamala Harris off, wow, that's going to be a zoo. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's off. He has COVID. Hopefully he gets better soon. So I'm here with you and me, 866-90-RED-EYE. So now what happens? I think one of the reasons that Democrats, did what they did, and it'd be interesting to see if there's other follow-up stories that verify what the New York Post story says, that they threatened Biden with the 25th Amendment, is they wanted him out because Democrats, and understandably so, if you're in any type of campaign, you want to be able to make the campaign against your opposition, and they weren't able to make it. It's all been about Biden. They believe that putting Kamala Harris in there will make it about Trump again. I don't think it's going to, and the reason is we already know Trump. He's a known quantity. Who doesn't the American public know about where she stands on the issues? Trump or Kamala Harris? So they haven't solved that problem. And she's not a good campaigner. And she's as far left as you can get. And the Republicans are being extremely effective. Wow. Remember this day I said it. July 23rd, 2024. You don't hear me say that a lot, but the Republicans, especially in the last couple of months, especially in the last month or so, have been extremely good at communicating the message about the difference between where they stand and the Democrats stand. I don't know how somebody like Kamala Harris fights it. I do believe that, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the election, and I'm not guaranteeing it. I don't predict that because we've seen how much things have changed. But I believe that she is the worst candidate that the Democrats could have picked. I don't know of a worse candidate than Kamala Harris. I think the way that she went from in 2019 from being at the top of the heap in the Democratic primary, I think she was third at one point, and getting out a month before the primaries, the Iowa caucuses even started, showed the fact that when she has to open her mouth and explain things, she's not able to do it. She's not a good candidate.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. Eric is out. He's got COVID. Hope he's going to be okay. He didn't communicate with me yesterday, so I mean he's up and his mind is working, and he wishes that he was here, but he's got a slight fever, so he's out. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Wow, we were so busy yesterday, and even on Friday's show. Friday's show, we only got to talk just the not even half the show did we get to talk about the convention last week because of the global Microsoft outage that happened. I was reading yesterday that in Atlanta, Delta's still having horrible problems. It's a nightmare if you're in Atlanta, which means some people weren't able to get home for a while. I had mentioned that one of my dearest friends who lives in Florida, she was going through from Florida to Oregon with the stop in Dallas. And the first day she was supposed to go last Wednesday, her flight was canceled because of weather here, thunderstorms here. And so 24 hours later, she was supposed to come in, and then the global outage happened when she was attempting to, take off from Dallas and go to Oregon. And that's how we found out about it, because she was texting me and she said, there's some huge Microsoft outage. I'm like, really? That are keeping planes from going. And that's how we started the story. And Katie is a reporter for Westwood One. Katie Clark, if you listen to America in the Morning with John Trout, you've probably heard her on the air many times. So she had gotten no sleep, no sleep. But the best part of it was I hadn't seen her in a while, and because she couldn't get on a flight till Saturday morning, I got to have lunch with her on Friday afternoon. We had a late lunch. I was able to give her the quick Dallas tour. What you're asking, what's the quick Dallas tour? You got to go by the sixth floor bookstore, the sixth floor of the bookstore. Now we just drove past it, but you have to do that. There's a grassy knoll. There's wow. When I first moved here, I think I did that tour 20 times with people that wanted to visit me. I could have gone to work there, but so that was one of the good things that came out of it. But she finally got to her destination on Saturday. But what a mess that was! What a mess! And like I said, I was reading just when I got up last night to come in to come to work that it's still a nightmare for a lot of people in Atlanta trying to fly on Delta. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know. I didn't see in any story written that anybody knew why the problems had extended all the way till Monday when the other airlines weren't seeing the same problems. All right. Since we're talking about incompetence, Eric and I for years have just, said we're doomed. And if you watched any of the hearings yesterday with Kimberly Cheatle of the Secret Service, you just shake your head. And the one thing I thought, the symbolism of Biden getting out, being forced out, to how incompetent he has been as a president, the things that he has promoted, the lies, the lack of accountability that has come from his administration. If you wanted to wrap it up in a box and put a bow on it, well, that's what you got yesterday. It was just, okay, if you want to see what the last 3.5 years have been about, she was the perfect example. Couldn't answer a question. Can I say one thing? No. Can I say one thing? The most useless words in this administration are, we take full responsibility. You know what would be the first question I would ask if somebody said that to me? Gary, Mr. McNamara, I take full responsibility. You know what my next response would be? How? How are you taking full responsibility? Well, for Kimberly Cheatle and for a significant number of Democrats that have testified before Congress that have taken full responsibility. Taking full responsibility means going through your normal workday each and every day, not answering questions, deflecting, being accused of perjury, not telling the truth. Wow. Completely clueless. And Americans normally can handle incompetence in government because they've seen it for such a long time. But there are certain organizations that even in government have been held to a higher standard. And one of them is the Secret Service. And this is just a disaster. We've got tons of audio to play on it. In fact, I think the hearing was like 4.5 hours. We don't have enough time to play them all, but we will play a significant portion for you because it was just downright frustrating. Frustrating to the point, how bad was this? Jamie Raskin and James Comer both agreed to write a letter and sign a letter that said she should resign. They both said that. Democrats don't want anybody to resign. Democrats have had no problem with anything that has gone on in this administration. And yesterday, they came out. I think the only time that I saw that they objected was when you had Representative Mace curse. And that wasn't even the usual. It was like, we need to have decorum. We need to have decorum. We'd like to have decorum. Is this what it takes for Democrats to finally say, okay, we can't accept this kind of incompetence? This kind of deflecting, this kind of lying, this kind of no transparency? Because it could get our candidate killed too. Is that what it finally takes? An attempted assassination of a former president and lead presidential candidate to make you finally say, oh my God, if if this came this close to Trump, what about our candidate? And by the way, I say our candidate because they're still not totally sure who their candidate is. Is that what it takes, Democrats? This kind of absolutely mass incompetence. Let's hear from Jim Jordan yesterday and a little bit of the back and forth.
The day after President Trump is shot, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, the assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false. The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said that is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed. But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this. Top officials repeatedly rejected requests from Donald Trump's security detail for more personnel. The next day, the New York Times said this. Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail. So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests...
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much they said, not worth asking. How many times did you turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is Mr. Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret Service had turned down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether that be through technology, or other resources.
Well, tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what did you tell them no to?
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general terms, the Secret Service is judicious with their resources based on...
What does some requests mean? How many times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What did they ask for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are times...
You didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that risk.
But that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is that there are times when we can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service asset or resource. We can fill that request with locally available assets.
You spoke to anyone at the White House since July 13th?
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk to?
I have briefed the President and the Vice President.
Talked to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talked to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people who pay your salary.
I understand. This is an ongoing investigation. And
Who's all doing the investigating at Secret Service? I know the Inspector General, but is there also an internal investigation in addition to the Inspector General?
We are conducting a mission assurance investigation internally, yes.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy's going to be the next president. Looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be cautious.
You might want to, but you haven't answered. I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member, or me. Well, we got a lot of other people asking. We'll see if your record improves. But right.
There you go. That's Jim Jordan yesterday. We'll have more coming up because it got to be really interesting. 866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Just because idling is common doesn't make it smart. Idling a diesel uses about a gallon of fuel per hour, which can cost you about $180 per week at $4.50 per gallon if your truck idles 8 hours a day. Idling easily can cost you a few thousand more in fuel alone per year, not including the added engine maintenance expense that results from excessive idling. Harder on your truck's engine than highway driving. In addition to operating costs, many governments impose no idling laws and regulations with fines as high as $25,000. Instead, there are many alternatives. An extra blanket for cold temperatures, window screens for when the weather is warm, bunk heaters, and various auxiliary power unit options abound in this day and age too, many powered just by batteries. Otherwise, diesel and gas gensets burn far less fuel than your truck's engine. Research options to find your fit. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Eric's under the weather today, is not in. Hopefully he's back very, very soon. Let's get back to the hearing yesterday of the Secret Service Director Cheatle. This is James Comer, and they're back and forth.
Day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure, as you can imagine, that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
You can't, okay. Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Well, okay. Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
One of the things that you said, I believe, in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal, and do you fear that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
So I appreciate you asking me that question, Chairman. I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service in general, not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are providing overwatch, whether that be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance that day?
So again, I'm not going to get into...
She won't get into that either. We'll get some of the frustration that boiled over at this hearing coming up following the bottom of the hour, and we'll hear from some of the Democrats that we're not happy either. To have a bipartisan letter. I mean, have they agreed? Have Raskin and Comer agreed on anything? Maybe there is something out there that's minor. I don't ever remember both of them signing a letter that would tell a member of the Biden administration that they should resign. I don't think that's happened. This thing just was bad yesterday.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose if you cannot listen live overnight like you're supposed to. Having fun. Eric is out. He has COVID. And hopefully he gets better very soon. In case you just tuned in, when I was working out yesterday and got back to the house, and I'd seen his text, and he had shown me he had the picture of the COVID test and all that. I mean, he's doing all right. He's got a temperature and all that, but he's was not happy because these are just great times to be in talk radio. Really is. Probably some of the best times. Well, we're covering historical events all the time. This historical event, I wish we weren't covering, but the failure of the Secret Service in the attempted assassination of former President Trump last week. Let's continue with the hearing yesterday.
From Texas.
I just wanted to confirm there was only one counter sniper who took one shot. Is that
We had multiple counter sniper teams available.
Yeah, on the
that
premises,
day.
but is only one took one shot? Is that correct, or only one?
Correct.
Okay. How many spent shell casings were found on the roof?
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay. Word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd have to defer you to the
FBI.
FBI's investigation.
Okay. You're not curious about? You don't communicate with them? No. Okay. CNN reported that the Secret Service did not sweep the building the shooter was used to shoot President Trump and other attendees. Is that true or false?
So we are conducting a mission insurance investigation and will depend on the information that we obtain from our investigations.
Okay. The Secret Service knew there was a suspicious person anywhere from 8 minutes before President walked on stage to 30 to 60 minutes. We have different reports. Was President Trump or his team notified of the threat?
I think there's a difference and a distinction between suspicious
person
and threat.
Yeah.
So we are going back and looking at communications to know when the information about a suspicious person was passed to Secret Service personnel.
Okay, but was President Trump or his team notified?
Again, we are going back and looking to make sure that we have the exact information of when those notifications were made and who those notifications were made to.
Okay. I think it's troubling for a lot of us that the number one question everyone in America is wondering is why was the roof left open? And after 9 days, we should at least maybe have a little bit of that information. And when you come to this committee hearing and you don't have anything to say about that, it's very, very troubling. Did you review the security plan for this event?
I personally do not review security plans for events that take place across the country.
Any of them?
We have a number of events that
Who's
take
the
place.
top level official who reviews the security plans?
There's a number of people that review security plans.
Who's
as they
ultimately
unfold.
responsible for signing off on a security plan?
It's a conjunction of personnel. There are people on the ground, there are supervisors on the detail, there are people at headquarters.
So there's not one person who says, okay, this is good, it's copacetic, we're going for it?
I think much in the way that we build our security plans, where they are multi-layered.
No doubt there's teams working different aspects of it, but ultimately, isn't there an individual who signs off on the plan?
Much like how we design our security plans, they're multi-layered. There are multiple layers.
So there's no
people.
accountability.
There is accountability, sir.
There's this is whether it's the FBI or Fauci or anything. It's time after time after time. These multiple layers of accountability turn into layers of plausible deniability in agency after agency after agency. That's got to be fixed, because you keep coming here and expecting. Yes, you're saying I'm responsible, and you're accountable for it, but then there's nothing. What do you mean by that? I mean, you're saying you're going to keep your job, right?
I assure you, sir, that if we determine through the course of our investigation that someone or people need to be held accountable, we will do so.
What level of, if President Biden, God forbid, had been shot and killed, would you think that was worthy of resignation?
I would do the same thing that I'm doing here, where I would want to make sure that we are conducting an investigation, that there is continuity in that investigation, and that we could find the answers
to what happened.
You do not think the
assassination of somebody under your detail is worthy of resignation?
I think that this event was tragic and deserves answers.
The thing that you've said so far is that you want to make sure that this never happens again. The thing is, everyone in America knows that's not the job description that you're tasked with. The job description you're tasked with is to make sure it never happens, period. One of your goals in the strategic plan is to champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. You've accomplished the accessibility part. What standards, do you keep the same standards for all applicants and all, or does every Secret Service agent meet the same qualifications, or do you have different standards for different people?
Yes, sir. Everyone who moves through the application process has to meet the same standards to become a special agent.
Okay. The trouble I think we're having with right now, so far you gave a lame excuse for sloped roof. You said that local law enforcement's job was to cover up the building before backtracking on that. We were told that President Trump's team did not ask for security before you backtracked on that. You haven't provided the audio recording that this committee, the chairman, requested that was due Thursday. You didn't give us an advance copy of your opening statement, but yet there was reporting on it somewhere else. There seems to be more information from YouTube videos than you're able to provide for us, and it begs the question to anyone, you're in charge of the investigation of your own failure. So how is anybody in America supposed to be able to trust the results of that investigation as being anything transparent and genuine?
That's the last question, but please feel free to answer the question, Director.
Sir, I've been a Secret Service agent for nearly 30 years. I have led with integrity, and I follow our core values of duty, justice, honor, loyalty, and courage. And I am doing that in this case, and I assure this committee that I will provide answers when we have a full and complete report, in addition to cooperating with all of the other investigations.
Part of the problem is what she won't answer are already published reports of things that we already know. That's a huge problem. When the public already knows it, like, for example, the explosives found in the car, and she won't verify that, yes, there was. I mean, that's just, it's infuriating. Let's go now to, this is Representative Anna Paulina Luna yesterday in her questioning. Oh, that was Representative Cloud from Texas, by the way.
Director Cheatle, can you please give me the names of the individuals who are in charge of your conduct for the rally?
I'm not going to release names.
Can you give me the
today.
titles? And how many individuals?
No.
Nothing?
We had a full advance team that was responsible for advancing
How many
the site.
people are the final approval authority?
There are a number of people
Can you
that
give me a
are
number?
Engaged in approving
Can you
the
give
plan.
me a number?
No, I do not have a firm number.
Can you just confirm whether or not, I understand this is an open investigation, but in order to dispel conspiracy theories, have you guys been able to subpoena the shooter's Discord records, or has the FBI, to your knowledge?
I believe that the FBI is working on those.
Okay. Is it factual to say that you have not ruled out that the shooter was working with other people or persons?
Again, the FBI is conducting the criminal investigation into
Can
the
you,
shooter.
at least in an effort to dispel conspiracy theories, can you confirm or deny that?
At this time, we do not have that there were any other people engaged.
So you believe he's acting alone?
I do.
Okay. Have you been made aware of multiple eyewitness reporting that there was a second shooter on a water tower?
I do not have any information related to any second shooter.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because according to testimony from multiple witnesses, they did report that. And again, to my understanding, there were over 40 sniper teams that were briefed by the Butler ESU. And I want to make sure that people are aware, if you're saying that there's not another shooter, that we are able to clear that information, because from this whole entire briefing, it doesn't seem like much information has been able to get out to the American people. So I'm trying to dispel rumors, as I'm sure you understand. Was it true that Secret Service was present at the Butler ESU briefing?
There was a briefing between the counter sniper teams that were working on the ground.
Was Secret Service present?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, I want to read you a report from people that seem to be throwing you under the bus and stated that they were in attendance and that Secret Service was not in attendance at the security briefing, according to individuals with knowledge, to also include that the AGR building where the shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was located was actually not a part of their security perimeter for that. So there was not Secret Service present. It seems as though that when you were asked earlier from Rep. Kristamorthy about whether or not Secret Service was aware of a threat, you had said no, they were unaware of a threat. And yet, according to communications, again, from law enforcement that were in some of these group chats, they actually had reported that Secret Service was made aware of a threat at around 5:59 p.m. as a part of the command, including Secret Service, aware of messages and requests about information about the suspect's location. Can you please tell me if you have knowledge of that at all?
Again, I think we're conflating the difference between the term threat and suspicious.
But you guys did have knowledge at 5:59 p.m. according to those group chats, did you not?
Of a suspicious individual.
Okay. Chairman, in my opinion, according to some of the testimony today, I feel that you have perjured yourself in some instances. And so I'm going to ask for a full review of the transcripts by staff. And if you find that to be the case, I do ask that you bring perjury charges against the director. I will say this, it is very frustrating, and I've talked to my colleagues and we've said it to your face, that you have been up here basically stonewalling our ability to get the answers to the American people. And what I will also say is that every single member of Congress does not feel safe with you in charge. You have heard that, and I think that we are all sitting ducks with you in directing the Secret Service currently. But more importantly, it sends a message to our adversaries that we are not protected, and we are one of the strongest countries in the world, so you have essentially made us a less safe country because of it. As a result of that, I'm asking you to formally step down. I share my same opinions as my Democrat colleagues. And I also think that your efforts to bring forward a full investigation and report in 60 days is unacceptable. And as a result of that, I'm going to do everything in my legislative toolkit to ensure that that happens sooner rather than later. And I'm sure that you know that we brought a vote on inherent contempt against Garland for essentially blocking a congressional investigation. And I don't think that you should be any different. So I will say that I am just completely disgusted by your performance today. And I understand that you're probably in a position where you're being told not to testify, which is why we had to subpoena you. I think that goes back to Garland. But again, that is part of the flushing that we need to get out of Washington, and I would be happy to assist in that process. Chairman, I yield the rest of my time.
Wow. Yeah, it's, as I said, it's the day after Biden is out, and then this is, it's just. It really is. It's a microcosm of the incompetence of everybody in the Biden administration. Her boss is Mayorkas. They didn't want her to testify until there was a subpoena. As somebody brought up, there has not been an FBI press conference, a Secret Service press conference, or a Department of Homeland Security press conference on this. Think about it. An attempted assassination of a former president, the leading candidate in this election, and nobody's had a press conference. When she was asked about it, she goes, well, there was one. They go, that was local law enforcement that did it. It's amazing whether, as I said the other day, nobody really expects quiet quitting from the Secret Service. But this is just indicative of this entire administration, and it has to stop. And there doesn't seem to be any type of urgency. You finally have Democrats agreeing with Republicans that he needs to resign, but there seems no sense of urgency here. And we're talking about, our adversaries believing that you have an incompetent Secret Service who won't answer questions about something that should never happen, with excuses coming from the Secret Service of things that should never happen. Nobody should be able to get within 150 yards on a rooftop. Just amazing. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. He's under the weather. Hopefully he returns soon. Coming up following the top of the hour, more audio from the hearing yesterday from the director of Secret Service, where both Jamie Raskin, the ranking member, and James Comer both agreed in a letter that she should resign. And it was just amazing. Plus, we'll have the latest polling out there. You'll want to hear this. All coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. He's under the weather. He tested positive for COVID yesterday. Said he felt like he had some bad allergies and decided to check it out because he had felt it before, and he tested positive. He has a fever, too, but he's doing okay, and hopefully we will see him very, very soon back here in the studio. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know how bad it is or how far he is in to COVID. Checked myself yesterday. I had 2 tests left. I was going through the pantry going, I know I had a box in here somewhere. I don't know. Could the date be expired? Did it have an expiration date? I didn't even check, but so I took a COVID test and negative. I've never tested positive, even though I'm sure I've had it. Everyone was exposed to it in some way. 100% of the population this far out, but this is like the 3rd time I think Eric's got it, the 4th maybe, where he's actually been sick. So, and a couple other times, I didn't sense that he was as bad as he was the last couple of times that he had it. All right, let's just, I want to look here to see if I can find the polling that I was looking for here, because it was interesting, some of the new poll numbers that had come out yesterday on the presidential race. And I'm just trying to find it here. If you give me just 1 second. I'm trying to find it actually on my phone. So I had it here earlier. Here it is. The odds. You want the odds? The odds are 63% Trump wins, 29% Kamala Harris wins. These polls here, let me just see when these were taken because I'm going to ignore the polls. This one, these polls were taken the 17th through the 20th. All right, it just gives you an indication of where it was beforehand. And these are in some battleground states in Michigan. And so this goes through Saturday. In Michigan, Trump 46, Harris 41, Kennedy 6, Stein 2. Pennsylvania, Trump 45, Harris 43, Kennedy 4, Stein 2. Arizona, Trump 46, Harris 40, Kennedy 7, Stein 1. North Carolina, Trump 48, Harris 44, Stein 2%, Kennedy 2%. You can see that the numbers that Kennedy had in the past, as we expected, as you've normally seen a third-party candidate, is not what it was. Remember in the beginning where there were a couple of polls he had 17, 18%. And so that isn't the case. CBS News general election poll. Trying to see the date that this was taken because I think it gives you a better clue. And this would have been 48.2 to 46.3. Trump 1.9%, but I don't have the date of this poll. And it's very important to have the actual date of the poll. Okay, that was the Quinnipiac poll. So that was 7/19 through 7/21, Trump-Harris. Then there was the polling that came out, the one that was mine, I think it was the Harris X poll. That's the one where you're like, whoa. Oh, there was a Pennsylvania poll, general election poll, Southern Cal Research, Trump 50, Harris 46 in Pennsylvania. This is the one, this is the Harris X poll that came out the other day, and this one, 7/19 through 7/21. So this goes through all of Saturday. And what I found interesting in this, and some people might say, well, this might be an outlier. I don't know. And again, when we want to look at, okay, where are the polls settling in with Harris as the presumptive nominee, that's probably still a week from now. But this one was interesting in the Harris X poll. This is a huge sample, too, nationwide, 2,169 likely voters. And I don't remember ever seeing, this is the Congressional ballot. And you know how close that always is. The 2024 generic Congressional ballot, Republicans 49, Democrats 41. That's huge. I don't think I've ever seen an 8-point margin. Maybe I have. I don't remember the last time I saw an 8-point margin for Republicans in the generic Congressional ballot. The same poll, I believe that is the, hang on, I believe this is the same poll. Yes, the Harris X, this is head-to-head now, I believe. Trump 51, Harris 40, 11 points. Again, that's huge. Those are huge numbers. What it does show, does it show the true numbers of Harris? Maybe. I'll be more comfortable looking at a number of polls a week from now and, you know, all the way up to the convention with her being the presumptive nominee, unless she becomes the nominee on the 7th of August, if they still are going to do the virtual polling thing. As you know, in the last, 12 hours or so, all of a sudden the story, New York Post had the story that, well, what they really want, they want Mark Kelly to run. And so they're pushing the delegates to actually support Mark Kelly. I don't see that now. I mean, that's just one of the number of stories. Let me say this. You go on social media right now, and one of the hardest things to do is try to decipher what is the truth and what is not the truth. There are, for example, on the attempted assassination of former President Trump, so many conspiracy theories out there, so many questions out there, and a lot of the questions can be viewed as conspiracy theories because that's what they lead people to. The questions lead people to that, and it was even said to Director Cheatle yesterday, the Secret Service, by you not answering these simple questions that people see in the media already, and they know some of these things have already been answered, you just give credibility, you give more credibility to the conspiracy theories out there because you won't answer any question. But we're in this time now where the political hype can be way over the top. There are a lot of Democrats that are worried about having Kamala Harris there. There are a lot of Democrats worried about that. A lot. They look at that and say, did we improve it all? You know, if you're going to do it, you know, put a Mark Kelly in. You know, put a Shapiro in. That's what Democrats are saying. But to do this, you've picked the worst possible candidate. But as we've said, it was their only choice because nothing leads with Democrats over the last 20 years. Nothing is more important than imagery, than identity politics. Nothing. And so it's not surprise that this is what you see because that's how they've operated. But that poll there, Trump 51, Harris 40, is huge. The generic congressional ballot, Republicans 49, Democrats 41. Huge. Absolutely huge. Now you had the Quinnipiac, and again had Trump 49, Harris 47. This would have been Echelon Insights poll, likely voters, smaller sample, 729. The generic congressional ballot, Democrats 48, Republicans 47. And normally, if Democrats are that close, if Democrats are up by a point or two, that usually gives Republicans the advantage, history shows. But the one showed them up by 9. Let me see. So the latest poll, this would have been the 19th to the 21st, Echelon Insights, okay? It shows Biden leading Trump 49-48. He was still in for the majority of that polling. Buttigieg, Trump 48, Buttigieg 46 plus 2. Trump against Newsom 49-43. Trump against Whitmer 50-43. And is that still be, and Trump over Harris 49-47. So in that one, and again, you get outliers all the time. You know, the one shows Trump up over Harris 51-41. Now, again, as we know, there's a lot of these are head-to-heads, and you can't use the head-to-head. You have to use everybody in there. But still, you see that Biden, for the most part, still polled better. He's not going to be polled anymore, but still polled better over the long haul than most of the other candidates did. And so we shall see. But the one from the that had come out that showed him up 11, and the generic congressional ballot up by 8. You might be able to consider those outliers. I don't know how. Now, I haven't seen how they've actually done the polls. You know, what they fed into it, what demographics that they actually polled on that. But that would seem high, or could be an indication of the momentum of the Republican national convention. We'll talk more. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has a morning off. He's under the weather. I'm here, though, you and me. The National Republican Senatorial Committee document, a National Republican Senatorial Committee document contends that having Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential nominee spells doom for down-ballot Democrats due to her extreme agenda and poor campaigning skills. Jason Thielman, the executive director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, wrote a memo on Monday detailing how Harris, as the Democratic presidential nominee, creates a strong down-ballot opportunity for Republicans. The case against Joe Biden relied in part on the fact that he was mentally unfit to hold office, which was difficult to translate down ballot. Kamala Harris owns the Biden administration's baggage and is an avowed radical. Thielman explained in the memo, an endorsement of Kamala Harris is an endorsement of her extreme agenda, and Harris is arguably a bigger threat to the Democrats' Senate majority than even Joe Biden is, according to the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Harris does not poll well and has backed extreme policies. Former President Donald Trump leads Harris by nearly 2% nationally. Harris has a negative 15% approval rating among the American electorate, and she is likely more unpopular than President Joe Biden in every single competitive state. The nonpartisan GovTrack found that Harris ranked as the country's most leftist senator and that progressives in the squad were quick to back her. Harris also has radical policies, according to Thielman. They include Harris pledged to decriminalize border crossings and supports abolishing the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Harris pledged to eliminate the filibuster to pass the Green New Deal. Harris backed a bail fund that sprung a convicted criminal who went on to kill a man. Harris pledged to enact Medicare for all, although she would keep private health insurance. Harris has backed confiscating firearms through a mandatory buyback program. Candidates should not be shy about aggressively tying their opponents to Kamala Harris's extreme agenda. This is from the letter. Kamala Harris is not a good candidate, Thielman concluded in the Republican memo. When she ran for president the first time, she dropped out of the race before Iowa and was polling behind Andrew Yang. So that's where you are right now. Look, the reason, there's two reasons that she was picked, and she is the presumptive nominee. Now that she has the number of delegates to win the nomination, the number of stories written on that yesterday where enough Democrat delegates have said, yes, she's our candidate. Two things. First off, the Democrats had hoped to get Biden out of there because this was a campaign focused on Biden and not Trump. I don't see where it changes here because to the public, Kamala Harris is new. Most people, you would know that she's far left. Most people probably don't know specifically where she stands on the issues. She will now become a focal point for Republicans. How do you make Trump the focus of the election in order to win? I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I don't think you can, because he's been vetted now since 2015. He's been vetted for 9 years. Everybody knows where Trump stands. Most people couldn't tell you specifically if you asked, where does Kamala Harris stand on a particular issue? They might not know. They will know. And she will be defined. She will be defined more successfully, I believe, by Republicans than Democrats, because Democrats cannot label her accurately as to where she actually stands on the issues. The problems that Democrats have, whether it's Biden or whether it's Harris, is being intellectually honest as to where they stand on the issues. They can't do that. You saw the example. You saw Mayorkas. The border is secure. Everyone knows the border is not secure and hasn't been secure. When it comes to Biden himself, one of the biggest cheerleaders that he was fine was Kamala Harris. Now, the entire public, every Democrat knows, every Democrat listening right now knows that everybody, the media, the administration, Karine Jean-Pierre, John Kirby, any Democrat in Congress supporting Biden and telling you how great he is, any member of his cabinet saying, oh, he's so aware, all of them were lying to you, all of them. And that will be pointed out over and over and over again by Republicans about Democrats. How did Democrats respond? We weren't lying? Ask a Democrat right now, well, why did Biden pull out? What's the official reason? There is none. There's no official reason yet.
Setting the standard for America. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley, who is under the weather today. So it's me and you, 866-90-RED-EYE. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. All right, breaking the latest poll down. And again, you know us. We don't look at one poll and say that it's the be-all, end-all. We look just for any type of movement. This is the Harris X poll that was done the 19th through the 21st. It was done after the news was out there that Biden was going to resign this weekend. Mark Halperin's story. This was all after Mark Halperin's story came out. Again, it's not her as the presumptive nominee, which I guess you could say after today she is, but it can give you an indication about whether the Republicans might have gotten a significant bump or what type of a bump they got from the RNC. We're going to break this down. This isn't everybody in the race where Trump had an 11-point lead. This is just Trump against Harris, where he has a 9-point lead. And it's when you break down, and he has a 9-point lead over Harris, that is, in this Harris X poll. The interesting thing is when you break down the different demographics, that's what I find fascinating. 18 to 34. All right. Trump's leading 46-44. 35 plus. Trump leading 51 to 40. Whites 56 to 36. Trump is leading over Harris. Blacks 65 to 25. Now, that's a huge difference. Hispanics tied 45-45. Suburban 51-40. Trump leads. Urban 50 to 39. Harris leads. If I'm saying Biden, understand I mean Harris when I say that. But urban areas, Harris 50-39. Rural areas, Trump 63-30. When you even break it down further, and this would be white men. White men prefer Trump 62-31. These next two numbers are pretty mind-boggling. For men, for black men, Harris leads 54-37. Male Hispanics favor Trump 58-36. Almost the opposite for Hispanic women. They choose Harris 52-34. You have white females choosing Trump 50-41%. Black women 71-17. They favor Harris. Hispanic 52-34. They favor Harris. So some fascinating numbers there. What do I see of interest? Trump leads young people 46-44. And, of course, his inroads with blacks and Hispanics are huge. I mean, Hispanic men 58-36. We talked about yesterday, the demography of destiny that Democrats came out with back in 2013, 2014, where they said just the demographic shift alone means they can't lose an election. I remember that very well. I remember it in 2015. Eric and I sitting here, and it was the projection because Hillary was up against Trump. I'll never forget what was being said, that Republicans will never win a presidential election again because the demographics are not going their way. That's completely changed. We've always said, though, I mean, eventually it comes down to the issues, and we finally got to the point earlier than I thought. We got to the point of, well, the narrative hitting reality. I knew that eventually we would be hit by the debt. I knew we'd be hit by the debt. I mean, eventually. I didn't think it would be because of COVID and the inflation caused by the loose monetary policy and the over-the-top spending. That I didn't see. I saw it. I didn't see it that soon. And that's, if you've heard us discuss in the past, Eric and myself, that Democrats' biggest problem is not Republicans, it's reality. Because everybody realizes now. You know, I do I have the audio cut here? I want to play it. I think it's Adam Schiff. Oh, I've got so many windows. I've got a lot of windows open. It was Adam Schiff, and let me just see if I have it here, where he was on, I believe, on Fox News. I don't know, was it Shannon Bream he was on with? Let me see if I can find it here quickly, because they keep talking about the legislative agenda of Biden and therefore Harris. And the one point, it was Julian Epstein, the Democrat, who we read part of his column yesterday, that said they keep saying the legislative thing and infrastructure and spending this and spending that. He said, but the public understands that kind of spending is welfare spending, and they've felt the 20% inflation that comes with it. And now Americans understand that massive government spending, as we have right now, causes massive inflation. No, it was McCallum yesterday. She was talking. It wasn't Schiff. It was It was Eric Swalwell who was on with her as they talked about the disappearance of Biden. Like, where is he? What's going on? And the phone call. And this is just crazy. and he goes to Trump, and then he goes to the legislative agenda of Biden.
None of this is that big a surprise. I mean, we're told that he like 9 months went by without a cabinet meeting. And that when there were cabinet meetings, they were somewhat scripted. I mean, the things that are coming out now about what we were told on the outside, oh, he's fine, he runs circles around everyone, clearly were not what was happening behind the scenes. And now, Karine Jean-Pierre, we thought we were going to get a press briefing today on this monumental decision that happened not even 24 hours ago. No press conference today, but she's going to go on The View tomorrow. Just for the American people, Eric, what should they think about all of this? A lot of people people go, this is crazy. Where is he?
Well, they should think that for the past 43 months, he hasn't had any cabinet controversies.
Because they're not meeting, apparently.
Almost no one from Donald Trump's cabinet.
You don't have controversies if you tell everybody what to say when they walk in the room.
But also just look legislatively how consequential he has been. Our kids will drive on the roads that he built. They'll power their phones with chips that he
Well, don't they deserve to hear from the president then?
And he's going to speak to the American.
He doesn't have an answer. And so they keep going back to the legislative agenda, which the American public looks at and says you shouldn't be promoting that. That's the problem that Democrats have. They keep saying, and again, Democrats, intellectually honest Democrats like Julian Epstein brought it up in the column that we read yesterday. It doesn't mean anything. Look at our legislative agenda, infrastructure. We spent on this, we spent on that, we spent on that. And that's right. That's why my life is a living hell right now, because of inflation. That's what people think. And he said they've got nothing to promote. And so what do? And I played earlier J.D. Vance out there, and he's hitting all the points. We can do this. We can produce this. We can do this. And the Biden administration is keeping us from that. Look, right now, to sit there and tell people that we can lower oil prices even more, we can lower energy prices, and because we do that, we can become the world's producer of fossil fuels, and not only become energy self-sufficient and have cheaper energy prices, but that will help us keep businesses here in the United States. People relate to it. Climate change is not an issue. Do you hear anyone talking about climate change right now? Anyone? Why not? It's not an issue. It's the inflation. It's inflation, the economy, the border, and foreign policy. And in every one of those issues, the Democrats get an F. And then on top of it, with the hearings with the Secret Service director, Americans are just shaking their heads. Look, there are some things that get complicated. There are some things that Americans understand very, very, very simply. And, okay, what's your job? To prevent someone from killing the president. So 130, 150 yards away, there's a rooftop that is left not guarded with a clear shot to the president that any idiot could figure it out. And I thought one of the worst things that she did yesterday when she was talking about basically, well, we needed a quorum of, well, who makes a decision? Who signs off on it? Well, a multiple number of people sign off on it. What do you mean a multiple number of people? Who is the person in charge that says, okay, everybody report, what do we got here? All right, I sign off on it. Here's the map. There it is. I'm looking down on it. Here are the drones. Here where we know all these places here, cover this place. Who sits there and says we don't cover this rooftop that's 130 yards from the president? I mean, it is so incompetent, and we've talked about this with this administration. They are so incredibly incompetent that it actually gives justification for the conspiracy theories, because the average person says nobody can be this incompetent. And the Democrats' response is, yes, we can. Don't believe the conspiracy theories from Republicans. We are this incompetent. Oh, my God. It's just So you never know what's going to happen in a campaign. You know, you look at the last few months. But right now, Kamala Harris is a horrible candidate. And the Republicans are on message. And Trump is pretty, except for the rallies occasionally, where it's like, just tone it down a little bit, because they're going to use anything against you here. Trump's been really, really good. And if they stick to that and they stick to the issues, they should win. And they may win comfortably. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara, along with Eric Harley, who was out today, though. Eric's got COVID. Hopefully he's okay. In case you just tuned in, I talked to him. I didn't talk to him, but we texted each other yesterday, and he seems to be okay. He's got a fever and not feeling good, but is very well aware of the issues and wishes that he was here discussing all of them. Coming up following the top of the hour, more on where is Biden. More on Kamala Harris's first day out there campaigning. Also, coming up, Ford delays their electric SUV line at a Canadian plant and shifts production to diesel-powered pickups. That coming up. And Pew Research has come up with, this is, I don't know, is this a... this is the latest data from Pew Research. More than 30 million migrants are taking U.S. jobs, far outpacing the growth of native-born Americans. And Keith Olbermann is back. And Michael Moore urges Biden to resign the presidency to help Kamala Harris. I knew this would start coming out. We said this yesterday. We said, watch some Democrats come out and say, okay, we need to get Biden out. We need to use the 25th Amendment because we're much more powerful. Democrats know that Kamala Harris is a poor candidate. And so some Democrats are thinking 25th Amendment, in order to get Biden out, Kamala Harris as the incumbent, they believe that will strengthen her as the incumbent. Now, other Democrats, as we have seen, the story from the New York Post, want Mark Kelly in and want Mark Kelly to replace Kamala Harris. So if you make her president, then that's less likely to happen. What a mess.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's under the weather. Hopefully he'll be back soon. You and me, and man, I'm telling you, just a ton of news out there. The two big stories, the testimony of the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheatle. We'll get to that just a moment. And we brought you some of the latest polls showing it looks like Trump did get a little bit of a bump. There's not a lot of polls out there yet, and we're waiting for the polls to come out. That would be Monday on. Take Sunday out of it. You'd get the first complete day out of it to see how Kamala Harris and Trump are actually polling against each other. We gave you the poll that was had Sunday in it. Yes, had Sunday in it, and that's the one where, with everyone in, Trump had a 11-point lead. I believe it was an 11-point lead, and when just head-to-head, a 10-point lead, and over Harris. But again, we want to see. We'll know a week from now, 2 weeks from now. But obviously, with the polls, you didn't see any type of major change. Even the polls that showed Sunday. So we'll keep you updated on that. Well, this sort of mirrors what I said earlier. This from National Review, Rich Lowry. Kimberly Cheatle is why no one trusts anything. I would say this, why nobody trusts anything in this administration. This has to be one of the worst administrations I've ever seen for not communicating. First off, Democrats do not like to tell you the truth of what they're promoting because they don't believe they can sell it. If you see, Republicans are out there telling you what they believe. Here's what we believe, here's what we're going to do. They get criticized for that from the left, and that's fine. It's in the arena of ideas. Everything is open for criticism. But Republicans are telling you this is what we want to do. Democrats, when they do something, don't want to tell you what they're doing. We've seen that on the border. We've seen that on inflation. And those are two of the most important topics out there. And you know how frustrating it's been when Mayorkas has testified or anybody in the cabinet testifies. It can be even the Fed chair, you name it. It's frustrating. You can't get an answer. And this was headlined, Kimberly Cheatle is why no one trusts anything. The best thing, this is where I disagreed with Britt Hume last week, where he had a comment that he didn't like. And we had talked about it last week at the convention where the Republican senators chased down Kimberly Cheatle. And he didn't think that was right. I'm like, what are you talking about? It was absolutely right that they did that. The American public understands it. And it seems like the Department of Homeland Security under Mayorkas and under Cheatle have no idea why Americans are so concerned that a attempted assassination of a president and the murder of one of his supporters and allowing someone who would be viewed as an assassin sniper was allowed to be on a rooftop 130 to 150 yards away. I've heard both of those numbers thrown out. Away from the former president, lead candidate for the 2024 election, one of the most well-known men on the planet. How they were allowed on that rooftop with line of sight and horrible excuses like, well, the slope. When we know anybody else would be fired. But as I said, this is just, it's a microcosm of this entire administration. Completely and totally inept to the point where nobody actually believes you're that inept. They believe you're lying, and then they wonder why you're lying because nobody could be this inept. And therefore, what's the conspiracy theory behind it? And then they go nuts. These conspiracy theories are out of line. Well, they're coming because you're not being transparent or giving any answers. And the answers that you give are ridiculous. But as he writes there, she should have been gone long ago. The best thing any group of Republican senators have done in recent memory is to chase Kimberly Cheatle down the hallway of the RNC last week. The head of the Secret Service is an appropriate target for outrage. She should have been gone the night of the attempted attempted assassination, and now is a symbol of incompetence and a lack of responsibility that has destroyed trust in our institutions. Cheatle should have felt honor-bound to resign, and failing that, President Biden should have felt honor-bound to fire her. When she says, oh, God, we got to hear this again. When she says she's taking responsibility, She means it in the contemporary Western sense, saying it insulates you from doing it. Saying it insulates you from doing it. And that's true. I said that earlier. The most useless thing said in Washington is, I take full responsibility, which means, or when they say that, I take full responsibility for what happens, which means what? What are you going to do? Since you're taking full responsibility, how? Nobody answers that question, asks that question. If Trump had been killed, she presumably would have been out instantly, at least one hopes. That he narrowly lived should not benefit her. She doesn't get credit for Trump's turn of his head and the centimeter that saved the nation from catastrophe and the Secret Service from a failure that would have brought eternal discredit to everyone involved. What is it makes Cheatle so indispensable? Is she some type of unique talent? Is she pursuing some transformational agenda besides the DEI stuff? Is she going to clean up what's wrong with the agency? If so, what exactly was she doing prior to this point? Obviously, anyone not associated with a grotesque security failure in Butler, Pennsylvania, and not hated and distrusted now by half the country, would be better suited to do it. And just goes on and on and on about how ridiculous it is. As Wall Street Journal notes in a report, the agency over the weekend acknowledged it had rebuffed requests for additional resources for Trump's security details in the 2 years leading up to the assassination attempt. That was a reversal from an earlier statement last week in which the agency spokesperson denied that such requests had been turned down. The report continues. Cheatle raised eyebrows when she said nothing publicly in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Then in her first remarks 2 days later, during an interview with ABC News, she offered mixed messages saying she was ultimately responsible for the former president's security, but identifying local law enforcement as responsible for the building where the gunman got a clear shot at Trump. God, this is really insane. One follow-on effect of the Secret Service's failure in Butler, the full magnitude of which we are still learning, is that it has stoked conspiracy theories about the shooting. Think of it this way, though. If the choice is between believing the people entrusted with Biden's security in Butler were criminal masterminds or morons, which would you take? If the choice is between believing that people entrusted with Trump's security in Butler were criminal masterminds or morons, which would you take? There is no evidence of the former, but abundant evidence growing by the day for the latter. Apparently, in her congressional testimony today, Cheatle will say, thinking about what we should have done differently is never far from my thoughts, as if that's remotely enough. This is even before she spoke yesterday. Well, let's get to this here. I want to get to this back and forth, and this is Representative Lisa McCain of Michigan, a Republican, with Cheatle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I want to thank the Secret Service agents, those who work tirelessly to protect our president, and specifically those agents who did not hesitate to jump in front of President Trump. And my heart goes out to the family of the Comptoir family and the people at the rally who are still recovering. On the other hand, the Secret Service has a leadership problem, and it falls on you. And although I appreciate your hollow words that the buck stops here, I was actually hoping for some answers. Director Cheatle, you must answer to the American people if you want to stay in charge. It's really, really simple. You want to keep your job, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. The best way to keep your job is to answer the questions. Not play this shell game, not sing the Slim Shady song, wasn't me. I mean, come on. How long did you prepare for this hearing?
I've been preparing for this hearing over the weekend and into last week.
Okay, 5 days? 6 days?
As soon as I was notified.
And how long was that?
About this hearing.
Okay, 4 days?
I began preparing.
4 days, 3 days?
I'm not sure the date that I got the letter asking me to be here.
What are you sure of? Are you sure the color of your hair? Are you sure the color of your suit? I'm just, like, tell the American people, what are you sure of? You don't even know when you started preparing for the hearing? I mean, the biggest hearing of your life, and you have no clue? You can't remember when you started preparing for this hearing? Can you understand why those words seem hollow to the American people who are supposed to entrust their faith in you?
I assure you, the moment I received notification.
But you can't remember. You got a little Alzheimer's, dementia going? I mean, what, you can't remember.
I have several active investigations going on and an operational agency to run.
Okay. All right. But you want to take accountability, right? The buck stops with you, right?
I am taking accountability.
Super. Then let's start with trying to answer some questions. You keep referring to the FBI. When asked how many shell casings were on the roof, you referred to the FBI. When asked if there were explosives in the car, you referred to the FBI. When asked if Crooks was acting alone, you referred to the FBI. See a common theme here? I can go on and on. My question is, who at the FBI should I speak with? Wait for it. Wait for it.
The FBI is responsible for the criminal
investigation. Is there a name?
I'm not certain.
I'm not certain. All right, here we go. I'm not certain. I don't know. Let me ask a different question. Have you been in communication with the FBI?
Yes, I have.
With whom?
I speak with the director and the deputy director.
Okay. And what have they shared with you about this investigation? So I'll give you an opportunity to answer again. Did they share with you how many shell casings were on the roof?
They have shared with me the evidence.
Did they share with you how many shell casing were on the roof?
Yes.
Okay, how many were there?
I would refer to the FBI for
how many were there?
And their information that they need to share in their investigation.
So they've shared the information with you. You just don't want to share the information with us, correct?
We have concurrent investigations that are going on.
So they have shared this information with you. You know the answer to the question. You just refuse to answer the question from the member of Congress who has subpoenaed you to be here. Is there a different answer to that question?
I was always willing to come here and testify before this oversight hearing.
Beautiful. Then let's do that. Let's for once have your actions match your words. So you've been in communication with the FBI. You know the answers, and you refuse to tell us the answers. So I will ask you again. You know how many shell casings were on that roof. What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent.
What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent to talk to you about the information that the Secret Service has and that the Secret Service knows related to the
I'm
events
asking you
on
an
that
answer
day.
To the question. If you're supposed to be in charge, if the buck stops with you, how come you can't share the answers? What are you covering up? What are you hiding, my friend?
I'm not covering anything up.
Then why can't you answer a simple question?
I would leave it to the criminal investigation to answer questions related to that.
When you talk to the FBI and you ask them how many explosives, well, let me ask you, did you ask them how many explosives were on the roof? Did they answer that question? Or in the car, excuse me. Did they answer that question for you?
Yes.
Yes. So you know the answer to that question that my colleagues have asked you. But again, you refuse to give us the answers. You're playing this wasn't me. Well, I submit to you, if you can't, and it's not a can't, it's a won't. It's not a can't. It's not a I don't know. It's a I choose not to answer the question. Well, let me tell you, Ms. Cheatle, if you're going to lead, you need to lead. If you want to be in charge, then answer the question or step aside and have someone with the courage and the guts to answer to the American people the questions that they deserve answers to. And with that, I yield back.
Yeah, it's maddening, isn't it? 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric has the morning off. Eric has COVID. He texted me yesterday, and he actually let me see the COVID test. He took a picture of it for me. So he's out today. When he'll be back, I'm not sure. Hopefully ASAP. He seemed to be in pretty good shape. It's just he tested positive. He said he felt like he had some allergies, and he just didn't want to chance it. So coming up following the bottom of the hour, more on the Kamala Harris campaign, more audio cuts from the testimony yesterday, or the lack of testimony from Secret Service Director Cheatle, including some Democrats that weren't happy. The thing about this, I wondered how are Democrats going to react, because in every single hearing that I've heard, they have enabled whoever the person representing the administration is. Everything from telling Mayorkas what a great job he's done on the border. So I just expected that's what's going to happen, and that didn't happen. In fact, you got that joint letter from both Jamie Raskin, the ranking member, Democrat, and James Comer saying she needs to resign. And I don't know anybody. Maybe there is some Democrat that was complimenting her yesterday. I didn't see it, but everybody wants her gone.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's under the weather. Hopefully he returns soon. It's you and me. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want, when and where you choose, if you can't listen live overnight. And the podcast starts just a little bit after the show is over. So just go to our app, and you can listen at your convenience. Our podcast is our show. So we make it very easy for you. It wasn't only Republicans yesterday going after the head of the Secret Service. Democrats also did. Even AOC called for the resignation of Director Cheatle. I still find it amazing. When I saw it yesterday, I went, wait a minute. I'd seen it on X. Here's a letter written by Comer and Jamie Raskin telling the head of the Secret Service she needs to resign. I'm like, no way. This is like a trick. There's no way Raskin agreed with Comer. I guess that's what it takes for Democrats to wake up. An attempted assassination of a former president, lead candidate in a campaign, and then wondering, wait a minute, I wonder if our candidates are the ones that we like. whoever the candidate is for, this time around, looks like it's going to be Kamala Harris. But maybe if the Secret Service failed miserably around Trump, they're failing miserably everywhere. So there's a bipartisan call for her resignation. This is Democrat Ro Khanna from California yesterday.
Do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned. And Stuart Knight was not a Democratic appointee or a Republican appointee. Look, I'm not questioning your judgment. I just don't think this is partisan. If you have an assassination attempt on a president, a former president, or a candidate, you need to resign. That's what Stuart Knight did. He was a Republican appointee, and he took responsibility. And I think you need to reflect. This is not a question of you. It's a question of the American people. You cannot go leading a Secret Service agency when there is an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. I would say that about anyone who is running. And so I guess my question to you is, what's the difference between your position and what Stuart Knight did?
What I will tell you, sir, is that I am dedicated to finding the answers to what happened. And like every Secret Service agent, we don't shirk from our responsibilities. I will remain on and be responsible to the agency, to this committee, to the former president, and to the American public.
But is there a reason you wouldn't just do what Stuart Knight did after the Reagan assassination attempt?
I believe that I provided an answer.
There's nothing more that you have to say? I mean, do you really believe at this moment, given how divided the country is and the questions asked, that your service in this role is the best for the nation? I mean, I'm not saying you can't do public service again, you can't do something else again. Do you really genuinely in your heart believe that you being in this role is what's right for America?
That's Ro Khanna yesterday, the Democrat. It was like pulling teeth trying to get answers from her yesterday. Let's continue here. And this is Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona yesterday going after Cheatle.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request unanimous consent for that photo to go into the official record.
Without objection, to ordered.
Thank you. Director, your agency has a no-fail mission, and on Saturday, July 13th, your agency spectacularly failed. The failure resulted in the death of Corey Comparator and serious injury to two other rally attendees, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, besides the injuries to President Trump. It is unfathomable that a 20-year-old on the radar of Secret Service and local law enforcement before President Trump went on stage was able to climb onto the roof of a building with a rifle and fire off multiple rounds before he was neutralized. Was Mr. Crooks acting alone?
Again, I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation.
Was he just a lone gunman?
I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation for motive.
What did the Technical Services Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
Those are questions that we are asking, and we are.
You're sitting here today. Come on, Director. Everybody said this. You knew you were going to be asked that question because it's been asked multiple times. So this is an easy one. What did they determine was going to be the event perimeter? So you should know that. I mean, this is not, I got to wait till someone else tells me. What was it?
Again, I don't want to speak to specifics of the event.
Okay, this is a specific.
I understand.
This is a specific that you ought to know. As someone who said the buck stops with me, I'm going to stay in my job, I'm going to give the answers to the American people, and I know what happened, except for you're not going to tell us. And you're not going to tell the American people. And you yourself said in an interview that foments this notion of conspiracy theories. Guess what? When you sit here and repeatedly tell people, hey, I have to wait, as frustrated everybody on this committee, guess what? It undermines your credibility and whether you're really going to get to it. So I'm going to ask you again, what did the Technical Service Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
We are still gathering reports. We are interviewing individuals.
You know what it is, though. No, you're just not going to tell us, right?
When I have those details, I will most certainly share those.
Was the gun already on the roof, or did the shooter carry the gun up with him?
I do not have that information at this.
By the way, I just want to stop it for a second. She knows exactly what the perimeter was, because that's been the most important question that's been asked over and over again, and she's trying to make us believe that it hasn't been determined yet what the perimeter should have been. That's a load of horse manure, and if she truly doesn't know now what it should have been, that's another reason for her to be fired. I mean, it's over and over again, the same crap. I mean, it was so frustrating watching this yesterday, but she'll answer some questions, but not others. But the easy thing was in this particular instance, it's 9 days after you're the head of the Secret Service. You're telling me you haven't gone in and said, how did this happen? How did somebody get within 130 yards? All right, what was the perimeter set? Right? That'd be the question we'd all ask. What's the perimeter? Who set the perimeter? All right, who approved this? What was the sign-off? Why was this building missed? So I don't give any more stupid answers like the slope on the damn roof. That's what somebody with a critical thinking mind would do, correct? You're the head of it. The whole thing's been based on the building and the roof. How could somebody get there? Well, it wasn't within our perimeter. Well, it should have been. Why wasn't it? What was the perimeter? She didn't ask that question for 9 days. You're fired. Just amazing. Just absolutely beyond frustration. Where Democrats, it's so far beyond frustration, Democrats are agreeing with Republicans. Let's continue.
This time.
Well, when was the last sweep of that roof done prior to the rally?
I do not have that information at this time.
So how many holds? I mean, so most of us here have been in events, and Secret Service has been there. There's been security, and I can't tell you how many times we've said there's going to be a security hold right here. So we're going to wait, and we wait to 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, and yet we're hearing from you, apparently, that there were no holds in place. So ever instituted here with President Trump's going on stage. And you said, and this is, I think, connected with this, you said they hadn't adjudicated the shooter to be a threat. He was adjudicated to be a suspicious person, even though we've got some dynamic video that Mr. Krishnamurthy put on the video for us. So I guess my question for you is, and I think you answered this, I just want to see if you're consistent with what you said about an hour and a half ago. What do you do if a suspicious person is identified by the agency?
So at a number of our events, it is not unusual.
I know it's not unusual. What do you do?
Those individuals that are identified as suspicious, we will send teams out to...
Was a team sent out here then?
There were teams that were sent to identify and interview that individual.
They were sent to interview the individual who's scampered up in camo on top of a roof within 130 yards of his target. And did your team get there? When did your team get there to conduct that interview?
I don't have the details on the timeline. It is my understanding.
So if you did send, if they did send a team, and they're going to interview him, and you described that earlier as an investigation, why didn't they put a security hold on President Trump going on stage at that rally?
At a number of our protective sites, there are suspicious individuals that are identified all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they constitute a threat.
Of course not. But here you got a guy scampering up the side of a building on top of a roof. It's identified to you, and you said you sent a team there, and you can't answer that. And this gets to one of my finer points, Mr. Chairman, if I can make it, and that is We can have these kind of interview sessions, 5 minutes, everybody gets a kiss at the pig, 5 minutes, and she gets to stonewall us, not deliver answers. So we say, okay, we're going to put together a congressional committee, a blue ribbon committee. Same crap will happen. I am calling, and I'll support that, but I will tell you this, I am calling on the Speaker to give us and put together a truly independent commission of qualified former Secret Service agents, presidential and VIP protective services people who can actually conduct this kind of investigation and give us real answers, because I don't think you're going to give us those answers. You should have come today ready to give us answers. I call upon you to resign today. And I also would say I've got a bunch of UC requests, if I can go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
There you go, Representative Biggs yesterday. Yeah, it's absolutely maddening. Absolutely maddening. To the point where I'm sitting here watching this, and I had words before when I cut in on it, but most of the time I'm just shaking my head. I'm at a loss for words. An absolute loss for words. Because it's real simple. It's the same question for the last 9 days. How is an assassin allowed to get on the roof 130 yards away from Trump? How? How does that happen? And I've heard everything from the slope on the roof. Remember, she was the one that did it. And, she backtracked on that yesterday. But the fact that was the first thing out of her mouth when Eric and I heard that, and I know you did too, whenever you heard it, you said, you're done. Go. You're fired. Slope on the roof. Just for giving that answer, even if you did nothing wrong. You're the head of the Secret Service and you gave that as an answer, you're gone. God. Just amazing. You just shake your head. And there seems to be a lack of seriousness, too. When you won't answer, and she knows the answer to a ton of questions. She doesn't say, look, we'll go behind closed doors and we'll do it. Look, this isn't about an investigation where you're trying to save evidence to not prosecute the assailant. The assailant's dead. The American people, and this is what's happening. Now the Democrats, maybe some Democrats are trying to understand why Republicans don't trust this administration because they're a bunch of pathological liars. And now we've got the suspicion is, why won't you tell us this stuff? Why did you give stupid answers? Why was answers that you gave contradicted later on? Are you really this incompetent? And that's the thing. People cannot believe that adults in top-level security are this incompetent, which leads them to the conspiracy theory that you've got to be involved in it because nobody can be that damn incompetent. And so they come to testify and prove, well, yeah, we are this incompetent. 866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's out sick this morning. You and me coming up on the top of the hour. All right. We keep hearing the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment. New York Post with the story that Biden was threatened with the 25th Amendment if he did not leave office. That and more, plus Democrats comment about the Secret Service director.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.